Welcome back in to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Safety Systems. When it comes to home and office security, you'll always get the best contract, best service, and best system by staying local, and that means turning to Safety Systems. Trust VFL JJ Surlis and the team at Safety Systems to protect your home or business, just as they do for thousands of people across East Tennessee. All right. Again, this is the kind of segment that could come back and bite us, but I want to do it anyway. Josh Heupel has won. He's been a head coach for 5 years. He has an offense that always ranks in the top 5. He's won one conference title when he was at UCF so far. Almost made the playoffs this year. He's winning at a 741 percentage. That's a clip that'll get you in the Hall of Fame. What impressed me this year was the fact that he took a lesser team, in terms of just pure talent, and beat great coaches, championship coaches who had more talent. We've talked about this in the past. I think there's a difference between a Swinney, Smart, and Fulmer, to throw a UT guy in there, because those guys have to recruit. They don't scare you with their scheme. They'll out-recruit you. I think that's tougher. Then there's guys like Spurrier, Meyer, Saban. They wind up with good players too, but they win before they ever have them. Everywhere they put their feet down. Duke, Florida, South Carolina, for Urban Meyer, it's Bowling Green, Utah. He comes to Florida, changes everything with that spread offense. Now everybody in football is using that kind of stuff. Those are two different types of coaches. Is Josh Heupel heading toward that Spurrier, Saban, Meyer zone with what we've seen so far? Is it too early to say he's kind of heading in that direction? Jimmy?
I think he is heading in that direction. I think he's one of the best offensive minds in college football. And he hasn't just proven that as a head coach. I think he proved it as an offensive coordinator as well. Now, that doesn't always translate into being a great head coach. But you said something that I agree with as to why I think he's headed in that direction. I think he did more with less than any coach in the SEC this past year. He may have done more with less than any coach in the country except the guy at TCU, Sonny Dykes. So I think he's headed in that direction. I'm confident he'll continue to win at a high level at Tennessee because he can do more with less. And I think that offensive scheme is what helps get you there. I think this is a scheme that's not, they're going to catch up within a couple of years. No, I think he's going to continue to be productive. So I think he's headed in that direction.
I think it's too early to say for me. Definitively. Sure. But from the numbers you've shown in the show multiple times, he is going to give you a top 5 offense in the country. He's proven to do that, multiple stops, multiple years. You've got to score points to be on the big stage. You've got to score points to even be in the hunt come November. And he's proven to do that. He's at a premium SEC school. He's in a great conference. That's the reason for me, the SEC that I just mentioned, is why I have to hesitate a little bit, because it's so difficult to go through and have a season like you had this year, to be on this stage that they were on, or stages that they were on. If he can continue to duplicate what he did this year with that team, then yes, I think he puts himself in that Spurrier category.
Let me be clear here. When I compare Smart and Swinney and Fulmer, those are all national championship coaches. Those are Hall of Fame coaches. Yeah. So that's no knock. It's just two ways of doing it. And I think that way is harder, because I've always got to have the better. I've always got to get the talent. Whereas Spurrier, go to South Carolina. Oh, my system doesn't work here like it did at Florida. We'll just go to a spread. I got a running quarterback. We'll make it work. To me, do you think Heupel is closer to that zone than he is the other?
I think he is, because one, he takes lesser guys and develops them. Yeah. And I think if you look at Danny Werfel's a great example. Won a Heisman Trophy. Was nowhere near the most talented guy at his position in the conference, let alone the country. So I think the ability to develop players helps. I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and I was arguing Heupel's closer to this than just, let's give him more time. And he said, Gene Chizik won a national championship. But did Gene Chizik ever do anything that you looked at and said, that's sort of a transformative thing for college football?
Paying Cam Newton.
Exactly. And so his argument was you've got to take a lot more time, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I just think if you look at the trajectory of Heupel through his entire career, it points to you could be one of these guys who gets guys in, you develop them, you don't have to have the number one recruiting class in the country to be competitive.
Yeah, you can beat somebody that's got a better roster.
Yeah.
And the other, you look back at Urban Meyer, a coach I can't stand, just a despicable character. Look at what he did at Florida. He has his system. He gets down there. It's like, I don't really have a quarterback that runs my system the way I need, so we'll just finagle our system a little bit. He wins a national championship with Chris Lee. He goes to Ohio State. Dwayne Haskins is not a runner. They win. He gets a Heisman. Those kinds of coaches who can take whatever, and Saban did it. I mean, when he beat Tennessee in 2001, LSU did not have more talent than Tennessee in that year.
Yep.
And with that second year at Alabama where he turned it around like that, it wasn't because he recruited 5 stars for 4 years. It was the second year. Those guys have an it, and it's way too soon to say, but I think Heupel's on that path. I think the difference may be he's got to win a title to get there. Until then, he may just be Chip Kelly or Art Briles, who were great coaches. I know Art Briles had issues.
Mark Richt.
Well, I don't know that Mark Richt was one of those recruiting guys, though. But that's another one that was.
But Heupel's done this with numerous quarterbacks that are all varied, as we've talked about a little bit. They're all different types and styles. But if you're going to win a championship here at Tennessee, you're going to have to beat Alabama and Georgia most likely in the same season, on top of Florida. If you go crossover with LSU, A&M, whoever it may be, you're going to have to run through a gauntlet to do that.
Jimmy, I'll let you close.
Well, winning a championship certainly would be necessary. Didn't Steve Spurrier say it was harder to win the SEC than it was a national championship? So maybe Heupel will win a national championship without winning the SEC.
That's right.
But no, you said, is he heading that direction? I would say that direction. Obviously, he hasn't arrived there yet, but I think he's going in the right direction. I think he'll be a force to reckon with. There are only 2 coaches in this league right now in the SEC that I would take over Heupel. Only 2.
Saban and Smart.
Smart. That's it.
It's impressive.
That's fair,
It's a heck of a, and it wasn't the first choice of Danny White, no matter what they say. So, I mean, good for Danny White to winding up there. But sometimes unanswered prayers, baby, they're the ones. All right, when we come back, let's talk about what Rick Barnes has ahead of him. It's going to be Kentucky, it's going to be Vanderbilt, and he's had success against both. What does Mark Pancratz expect to see this week? And then a little later, we're going to compare last year to this year in terms of Tennessee's football teams. The numbers will shock you and please you. Come on back.